the most recent piece I did as we are recording this, I just did a portrait of Nicki Minaj. When I was drawing it, I was like, oh yeah, I saw this funny picture of her, and I wanted to draw it because it's like, oh, it's very memeable caricature face of hers. So I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love to draw a funny face. At any time, if show me a funny face, I would love to draw it. But I was so nervous about posting it for a while because I worry that people would think that my drawing of her was kind of honoring her in a way. I want to draw because the face is fun to draw, and
Yeah.
an ugly face is still a fun face to draw. I'm sorry, it was like a cartoonish face is still fun. Sorry, no shade. I'm sorry, the barbs out there. If you want to come for me, I'm sorry, but you know,
Listen, the barbs are having a reckoning right now, so don't
yeah.
worry about it. Welcome back for season 2 of Graphic Content, the podcast where we talk all things who, why, and the what the moments along the way. I'm your host, Gio, and what's on brand for me this week is over caffeinating by 8 a.m. every morning. Today, I'm joined by artist and illustrator Jason Ooi, also known as McSpiky, a former architect turned medical illustrator whose digital art journey started with RuPaul's Drag Race fan art and has since expanded into portraits inspired by pop and queer culture. He's passionate about learning, unlearning, and reminding creatives that suffering is not a prerequisite for good work. Welcome to Graphic Content, Jason.
Hi, Gio. Thank you for
Hello.
having me.
Thank you for doing this. I know we have a huge time difference, but I'm really pleased that we actually got to set up and record.
Yes, exactly. I think it's about 12 hours, so it's 8 in the evening for me. So
Hmm.
I'm all caffeinated as well.
Just on the opposite side of the day.
Yes, I have a few more coffee ahead of you, so I'm caught up.
I just gotta say, I know we talked a little bit about this before we recorded, but we just met recently, and I know that at this point the because I think Thailand has come up in every single recording that I've done so far. So anyone listening who is consistently listening is like, shut the fuck up. But we just met when I visited in Thailand.
It's serendipitous. I think it was meant to be
Oh yeah.
because I think when you reached out and invited me to join the podcast, I was like, yeah, sure. And then finding out that you were gonna come all the way to Bangkok, I was like, yeah, maybe we should hang out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the green room that we never knew we needed. But
Yes.
it's the best kind of green room that we could get. So it was lovely to meet you in person.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm glad to do this, and I'm glad we got the chance to hang out for a bit before we started recording.
Oh yeah, and all thanks to Columbus Heath. I love the connections that happen. I always say, like in my own life, I'm somebody who, yes, I love it. It's like,
Love you, Columbus.
yes, love you. Now we have to meet in person. That's the next step. Is
Yeah.
that he and I, because he lives much closer than you do to me. He's only like I think a few hours away.
Rude. Yeah. So we'll plan something. Maybe a get together, a resolution for 2026. We should meet more
Yes.
of our social media friends in person.
Hmm. I have to say though, you are a great I don't know if chaperone is not the right word, but like I want to say host because we got together and you and your partner took us out for dinner. Like we had such a nice night, showed us around like places that we would never have known, specifically the Nana district, which was hilarious. I had such a good time, such a fun time. And so anyway, before moving on, I just want to say thank you. Like we had like the best time. Like you really made our stay in Bangkok like that much better just by showing us around. Like we don't know, we've never been there, and you're like, this is what we're gonna eat, this is where we're gonna go, we're gonna show you this. It was amazing. So I just want to say thank you, like on the record for that.
Oh my god. Okay, and you know this, I'm bad at taking compliments, but thank
That's
you.
okay.
Um we love showing people around. It's our pleasure. We enjoy doing it. And the fact that when you told me that you were coming all the way, I thought,
Mhm.
yeah, this was serendipitous. It was meant to be. We have to really at least do Thailand a little bit of justice.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a very easy city to fall in love with. So we really did very little legwork. The city itself, it's very easy to fall in love with.
I love the fact that Columbus was like, hey, like reach out to Jason, like, maybe he'll want to do an episode. And then when I looked you up, I realized I already was following you, and that was another thing because I was like, "Oh, McSpiky, I know." We all have our names online. Like I've had people come up to me and be like, "Are you geographic?" I'm like, "Yes, but no." like that's not my name, but and so I was like, "Oh, McSpiky," because I hadn't really seen pictures of your face. I didn't know what you look like, and so I just see your illustration, and so that was like another incentive for me to reach out and be like, okay, somebody I'm already following, I already love their work, like let me just see. I've always known you as an illustrator. I know you for your pop culture, your art. When you started out as an architecture, which is like creative, but it's the complete opposite of like let me just draw. It's not as structured. And so what did architecture school give you that still kind of shows up or resonates today in your work?
Maybe to go back to a little bit of the social media part.
Hmm.
So what most people see on social media, it's my illustration work, which is interesting because that's my side hustle, my hobby,
Hmm.
really the creative side of me that I do for fun. And my professional work is very the other side of it. It's very
Hmm.
hidden. I was formerly an architect. I was trained. I went to architecture school. For anybody that has been to architecture school, and I assume similar if you've been to art school or fashion school, you have to learn to be creative within a certain parameter.
Hmm.
So you have to really learn to be disciplined and consistently show up. If the assignment is due on whatever date or end of the week, you really have to produce. So it's kind of like forcing you to be creative within a time constraint. That aspect of architecture school kind of stayed with me in the sense that it taught me to always be productive regardless whether
Hmm.
I feel like it or not. And you will eventually find that the more time you spend at the table trying to get something out, the chances are that an inspiration will strike at the
Hmm.
time when you need to. If you're distracted with other things, it's unlikely that you're thinking about the work. To summarize it, I think it teaches me to consistently show up, even though I don't feel like it all the time. I'm not saying that it's always a good thing, but that's something that it's learned. And then secondly, there's this thing in architectural school called design studio. I don't know, Gio, have you experienced something like this? You will have to complete a work or complete a project, and every week you have to present to your peers and you have to defend your work,
Yes.
and you just get exposed to all the criticism,
Uh-huh.
the comments, the everything. So I think that kind of helped me prepare for social media as well.
Yeah.
You get an off comment like, "Oh, this doesn't look like X. It looks more like Y," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I've heard it all in architecture school. Most comments can't really phase me,
Yeah.
unless they're derogatory. But if they're about my work, I'm less precious about it. So I think that's the two main thing that I took away from architecture school. Really the discipline to show up, and then also the thick skin to defend my own work.
What you said at the beginning about, sitting down and really like the more you just like force yourself to be productive, that something will come. I sometimes find for me, I'm like, that does not resonate. I'm like the opposite, where I'm like, I need to like le- leave it alone and like walk away from it because the more I sit and try to force myself, especially in like these times where like, I'm not diagnosing myself as ADHD, but like I cannot sit and focus the way that I used to like 10 years ago. And so now I'm like, I need to walk away from this or I'm going to lose my mind. And like, you know what I mean?
You went to graphic design school, right,
Yes.
Gio?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it
Very
similar?
different.
Do you feel like the hustle culture is very similar? Like it almost forces you to have to be productive every single week?
Well, the thing is, like, for me, it's my clients, right? So, and you know this, like, I'm working for other people, and at this point, like, I don't have a boss, so no one is telling me what my deadlines are. I do have certain projects I work on where the deadline is given to me, but for the most part, like, I'm the one that's like, I can do it in a month or I can do it in 2 weeks. And they're like, okay. And then, I set my own timelines. But even in that way, like I cannot just produce in one go. Even just taking the break of
Yeah.
going away for 2.5 weeks,
Yeah.
that removal of me of being in front of a computer
Yeah.
is has been so good for my creativity where I'm like, oh, I haven't been forcing myself to work for 2 weeks. I can actually like breathe a little bit and I feel reinvigorated.
Yeah. Then a question for you is, once it's time to come back, do you feel like you have the internal drive to bring yourself back to a work, or you feel like it's you need some extra? Do you need motivators to get you back into a creative mode?
It depends.
Okay.
It really depends. I will
Yeah.
say like and we also talked about this post the trip, I
Yeah.
was wrecked. The time difference is so insane. Like 12
Yeah.
hour, that's not like, oh, I went to Europe, like I can bounce back in 2 3 days. This,
Yeah.
like, it took me like 10 days. Like, I'm not even joking. My morning routine, my evening like those were like swapped to the point where it took me up until Christmas probably to feel like normal again. And I
Yeah.
was like, this is nuts.
When people ask about Thailand, the first thing they'll ask is, "Oh, how long is the journey there?" And then you'll say, "It's a day of flying."
Yeah, oh
And they're
yeah.
like, "Oh, haha, it's a oh, I mean like how many hours?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's
24.
literally 20,
Yeah,
24 hours of flying
yeah,
minimum.
minimum.
Sometimes it goes up to 30 hours.
Oh yeah.
It's yeah. So
Oh,
it's no joke. It's a whole day of flying. Yes.
y- yeah. And when we landed in Bangkok, we did not stay in Bangkok. We went straight to to Ko Chang, so that's 6 hours south,
And
and then a
that's
ferry ride. So like it took us like 35 hours to get home or to get
yeah,
to the destination.
the
And
destination.
once again, anyway, whatever, we're like totally derailing, but like you need to see something.
I understand. But yeah, anyway, to go back to the school thing. So I'm not
Mhm.
saying like I'm the perfect example of the discipline, creative or whatever. I think through architecture school, I managed to be able to kind of force myself when it's time to work, and I know
Yeah.
that I have a deadline to meet or I have a project to complete. I can get myself into a mood. Some days I don't
Hmm.
like it, but I can overcome the screaming in my head telling me not
Yes.
to do something, and I can push myself. And I think I can't tell you whether it's an architecture school thing or it's a type A personality thing, but I can force myself, wake up in the morning, do something that I really hate, just to get through something.
At what point did you realize, this isn't the vibe for me? Like I need to be creative in a different way.
So architecture is quite interesting because you're talking about a creative field, but it's almost like a professional setting. So
Hmm.
you know you're wearing the long sleeves and the slacks, and you sit at the table working and you're doing something creative. If you're lucky, you get to design a lot. Otherwise, you're spending a lot of hours just at the table doing your two-dimensional drawing, your drafting, your construction blueprints. I enjoy doing that to an extent, but once you finish your 9 to 5 work hours, and more often than not you're working way past the 9 to 5 hours, as
Hmm.
many people in the creative field do, then you find yourself just completely, or I found myself completely burned out or looking for some other ways of finding some creative outlet. I'm not to say that, I wanted to get out of architecture. I love being in it, except it felt like, when there's a lot of creativity and you're kind of limited to certain parameters, then you start to seek out other areas to express the creativity. Maybe to rephrase the question, it's not so much about I don't want to live in this container,
Yeah.
but it's more about like, okay, I don't mind being in this container, but how many other containers can I occupy?
I was just talking about this with another guest on a previous episode about just how we can have multiple outlets of things that we do and then things that inspire us and how we express ourselves creatively. I mean, this is one that I'm adding to the roster, let's say. But at the same time, I feel like, I am at a point now where I need to do things that are creative. Like I showed you, I think when we were there, like I was like, "Oh, I've been painting," even though we've never met. I was like, "I've been painting. I haven't painted in years," and you're like, "Okay, cool." Like,
No, yeah, you might think I was not that at all. That was I completely understand. So when you were getting excited about the other areas of creativity that you
hmm
found, painting or drawing or whatever, I was excited for you because I feel like with other creatives, we
hmm
kind of understand
yeah,
that just because if you spend a whole day doing something creative, it doesn't mean that you get to have your creative outlet or that need met. Someone might find me drafting
hmm
from 9 to 5 or whatever. As soon as I shut the computer, I'm back doing another creative thing. And for me, in my mind, I'm doing something completely different. It's
hmm
filling up a cup, or and then
yes.
during the day you're emptying out the cup, and then you have to fill it up with something else. So I might look like I'm drawing all day and all night, but they are quite different in my mind. They feel
hmm
like they are filling up different needs.
People can understand the concept of it, but it's that feeling, right? Where I can show you saying like I spent time just for the sake of painting, and you're like, okay, I know what that is like. I felt it in my life before, and so there's a bit more of that connection versus like, cool, you spent another day being creative that you normally do, and it's like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the
yeah, exactly, exactly. Or the one that I kind of grown at is, oh, you spend all day drawing. Why not you draw me or something? I'm like, it's not the same, Drawing a
same. I don't want
drawing
to
a
draw
muse,
you.
drawing a muse and drawing you is different.
Yeah.
Drawing like a like a inspiration, and just drawing some random person online, it's not the same. And no shade to the person asking, but it happens.
I know you from your earlier days of drawing the queens from RuPaul's Drag Race. That's how I know you, and that's kind of how your Instagram kicked up. And so, like from that time, why do you think that world, specifically RuPaul's Drag Race, unlocked something creative for you?
So I'm not a fan of a lot of shows usually. It was the first time I really felt like I was very invested in a fandom.
Hmm
When you're following all the social medias, you're reading the Reddits, and then you're watching all the
Yeah,
YouTube
you're in it.
drama
You're
stuff.
in
Yeah, I'm in it.
it.
Yes, I'm like
Yeah.
I'm like in it. Like I'm obsessed with it. I'm watching everything. So
Yeah.
I'm fans of stuff, but I'm never like so immersed in
Like
something
Die
until
Hard.
Yeah, and until RuPaul's Drag Race. When I started watching, it was also the rise of all, at least the beginnings of the Drag Race fan art scene as well.
Yeah.
So I stumbled upon, what most of us consider as like the godfather of the Drag Race fan art, Chat Cell. Have you heard
Oh
of
my
Chat Cell?
gosh. Yes.
So when I stumbled upon his work, because I was so involved with the fandom, it was like, oh my god, I was just watching these queens on TV, and then somebody recreated it in a superhero like style.
hmm
If you're drawing a fan art of another comic book or something, it's like, you're drawing a comic book to a comic book. It's like, how do I put this? It's like you're drawing something that is made up to another something that's made up in a way.
hmm
And for me to watch it on TV and see it recreated, like, that transfer of style, or the
Yes.
reinterpretation of something that you watch on TV, in a TV personality translated into a comic book character, like, it was very eye opening.
hmm
And at that time, I think I logged in, I don't know how many years or how many hundreds of hours of Photoshop under my belt. And to see Chetzel's work and be absolutely mesmerized or confused by how anybody could create a work like this. I'm like, I use Photoshop every single day, and I have no idea how anybody put this together. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost like, what kind of sorcery is this? So it became, so I don't know if it was a obsession with the work, or it's like a fear of missing out. Like, wait, why can you do something that I can? I
hmm
consider myself as like a a Photoshop Illustrator Pro at the time, and then suddenly realized like, wait, maybe there's a whole there's a whole area of expertise that I have no idea. So I think it was a mixture of I knew the tools already, and then just watching like, wait, if if I know how to use Photoshop, I can definitely get to this, and that's where I started to become obsessed with the whole idea of drawing portraits or drawing stylized or caricatures because I had the tools equipped. I just need to learn the fundamentals of it just to figure
Hmm.
out, okay, what is portraiture, what's caricature. Then it was just like a small leap, like a expansion of what I already knew. It's like leveling up.
Yeah.
So, and I think that was it's a mixture of being inspired by the work visually and technically,
Hmm.
and then I started obsessing about wanting to try to recreate that. Which is why, if you saw a lot of my early works, is trying to really replicating the style of Chatzel,
Hmm.
and then eventually I found other artists within the community, and then start expanding from there. Um, but yeah, that was the seed of where everything started.
Sometimes that's all it takes. And I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because having your foundation in architecture, or at least like your early, output, let's say, and then being able to transfer that into portraiture, did you find that the way that you look at people's faces and like the structures was easier for you to be able to look at and replicate because you're looking at how does everything work together, the shapes of the nose, like the head, the ears, versus how do I draw this, and you're just drawing something random on the page trying to make it look like it.
Interestingly enough, a lot of concepts within any creative field, I feel transfer quite easily. When you talk about compositions or proportions or feel or rhythm or things like that, that's people consider as fluff words within
Yes.
the art. When I'm watching a tutorial on how to do a portrait art, it kind of makes sense to me. So having that architecture background kind of allowed me to tap into the other field quite easily. I understood what they were looking for.
Hmm.
If they're talking about, oh, try to get this feeling or um, a rhythm, a proportion, or I got it quite quickly. I just had to
Hmm.
practice. So my brain had to catch up to my eyes, to catch up to my hands. So it's a matter of like, yes, I knew this already. Now let the muscle memory kick in. So then it became like, okay, let's try to get that right.
I love that in your, let's say, your path. You've not only done multiple different outputs, like architecture, now illustration, medical illustrations, but you've also lived all over the world. So you've lived in Australia, you lived in the US, and now Thailand. And so we're looking at geography, but we're also looking at like cultural differences and shifts. How does that inspire your work? How does that inform yourself as an artist? Because there has to be some inspiration there that shifts as you move around the world.
Actually, that's one of the questions that I think it's still hard for me to answer.
Mm,
Also, I was born and raised in Malaysia, so I've been to at least I've lived in at least four countries, for long duration. And long duration, I mean, of course, with each country that I've been in, my worldview shifts,
hmm.
and that somehow trickles down into my work. I can't really say explicitly inform how I draw portraits. I'm sure it manifests in some ways that I can't really point out. With each change, I had to really shift my profession, or I had to do some career change. I just had to adapt from whatever I learned from architecture school. I just had to take whatever I learned and reapply it in a new setting, in a new career, in a new job. And when I do a new job, or when I start a new job, then you learn new things within that, and you start exploring things within that as well. So it's just with each change, it comes new opportunities and challenges. So personality wise, I'm not great at changes. I'm I'm very structured and very routine. I love
Hmm.
going to the same place, eating the same food, doing the same thing. I'm very regimented. These changes hmm, were because of my partner, my husband, who has to move for work. These are changes that I had to learn to adapt to. To call myself, I'm very worldly, so considered. But
Yeah, but
I
you
feel like,
are.
yeah.
That's not
uh,
conceited. It's just fact. Like at this point, let's be honest.
growing up in Malaysia, we do watch a lot of media from the US. So a lot of our cartoons or shows, we have
Hmm.
MTV and stuff. So we kind of already have some awareness of what's going on in the States. Then going to Australia, then you learn a little bit like, oh, Australia is not like the States. Then you start to learn that as well. Then when you go to the States, you're like, wait, this is not what I watch on TV. Yeah, you just realize a lot of things. And that's maybe it's more like growth internally. I'm not so sure how it express externally. I hope someone could tell me.
Maybe you touched on this a little bit, but do you find that those moves have pushed you closer to your creative roots, or have kind of rebuilt them because there's a different environment that you're in?
It's both, you pick and choose what worked at the time. And then if you're lucky, you'll realize that something that you picked up from way back in the past will resurface in the future, as if it's like, oh wait, I learned this a long time ago. I didn't know I need it then. And then it shows
Hmm.
up, 10 years later. To give you an example, is my entrance into medical illustration.
Hmm.
It's crazy how it happens. So I was in architecture school and I know how to use all the software to draft and stuff. An opportunity came up because I was friends or I was dating someone at the time who wanted a medical illustration for publication.
Hmm.
um, he didn't know who to seek out, and except he reached out to me and said, hey, we need a drawing and can you do something for me. I didn't know anything about medical illustration except I just know how to draw. And he's like, okay, yeah, just try to do something. So I figure things out, try to put a figure together, and after that, then the opportunity to do it keep coming up. And I was still in architecture school while I was doing this part time. So the clients came in once every few months, so it wasn't consistent, but it was nice side hustle for me. And then I did a lot of detour. I went to the States and everything, and then coming to Bangkok, I was doing medical illustration at the time when I was doing architecture school without thinking that I would do it full time. And then now the opportunity came up for me to do illustration, medical illustration full time. So it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, if I didn't dabble in that 10 years ago, I won't find myself here. So it's almost like I didn't intentionally carry it with me, hold on to it. I put it aside for a while and then it came up. Then, like, oh, okay, the opportunity came back. So, you carry it with you. I have so many tools in the toolbox. What works today? And then you just take it out, when the time you need it.
So you shared with me, apologies for not having responded, holidays, but I got your
Oh,
email about your portfolio, your website,
oh, yeah.
and I can see the through line of style when it comes to your Instagram and what you present there, but then also your medical
My commission.
illustrations.
Yeah.
Exactly. And seeing the comparison, but I'm looking at it, I go, oh, you can absolutely see the style is it translates. How is it to tap into doing a portrait of a queen, or I'm drawing a layout of a disease?
I always find that I'm very bad at judging my own work. So
Hmm.
thanks for pointing that out. I unfortunately can't really see it for myself.
Yeah.
But now that you brought it up, it's quite interesting because my architecture work is very, structured,
Yes.
straight lines, drafting and stuff. And then the portrait art is a bit more stylized, a bit fun, and a little bit more freedom. The medical illustrations are kind of a mixture between the two because you have a little bit of needing to convey certain information that it's
Hmm.
scientific, but then there's also a little bit of room for play as well. I'm not drawing
Yeah.
buildings for construction. I can draw the the brain or the body in many different ways, so I can have a little bit of freedom as well. So it's kind of like a mixture. And if you're seeing as a through line, it's almost like it's a skill. I have my architecture drawing on one side and then my portraits on the other side, and then the medical illustration kind of sits somewhere in the middle. And it's funny that me learning how to draw the human anatomy kind of lends itself to the medical illustrations as well. So they kind of share and borrow each other. There is a structure and composition to how I do my medical illustrations, informed by the lessons I've learned from architecture school. And then I try to incorporate a little bit of fun artistic expression within the drawing as well, whenever is appropriate. I
Hmm.
will talk to a scientist and say, hey, do I have to draw this cell to look like this? Then they're like, have fun with it or whatever. Then I'll explore that. So I'll find areas or opportunities to explore, and then in areas where I have to constrain myself, then I'll constrain. So it's easy for me in that sense. Yeah.
There's got to be more freedom, even though it's science. There's a human touch to it, right? We have you're talking about the medical field, so there, regardless of science, there's the human influence that's in there. So yeah, that imperfection, and we've been seeing a lot lately with the rise of AI, how it's like hyper realistic. Like we're going now, anytime we see these outputs, not always, but a lot of the outputs I see, I go, a human did not create that. With your work, like there's a human touch to it, which I love. It grounds it in, there's like a, it's not separate from us. I feel like, if that makes any sense,
Huh.
like I can see it and I say, okay, this is something that is attainable in the way that you're looking at AI and it looks super insane. What is it about that human touch or that human approach that is coming up in your work?
With any new hobby I find, or any new creative field, I kind of approach it like how I would do in architecture school. I would just try to obsess about the fundamentals, the techniques and stuff. So,
Hmm.
you know, when I started doing the drag queen portraits, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos on how to draw faces, how to draw the body anatomy and stuff like that. So I was like obsessing about trying to get the fundamentals. Unfortunately for me, 10 years ago, I did not foresee the rise of AI and how it would be
Who would
much
have?
better, faster than me. So I wish I had that foresight and not waste so much time learning anatomy. But sorry, that's a joke, because I think with any endeavors, it's good to learn the fundamentals. I think that's
Oh
quite
yeah.
important. And I don't know, maybe that's biased for me. I feel like if you, whose quote was that? Yeah, it's like yeah, it's a Picasso's quote, right? It's like you learn the rules like a pro, so you learn how to break it like an artist.
Hmm.
So for me, it's like, okay, regardless if AI can do much better than you, or better than all of us, it still helps to learn the fundamentals, practice and stuff, and then from there, then you can start exploring creatively. But unfortunately, of course, you can only be so good, because the AI is gonna be way better and faster. So I'm starting to explore more in the what you mentioned earlier, a bit more human side. I don't know if it's a conscious decision, or at least for me, I knew that there was no point trying to compete. It was a losing battle. So I shifted maybe in the last few months, maybe a year or two. Yeah, last few months. I wouldn't say a year or two.
Yeah.
That I'm starting to feel like I should hone in more on the human side of things. Try to find inspiration from within. My own personal stories, things that really
Hmm.
move me, things that excites me. I stop following trends or what's popular. Yeah, occasionally the things kind of align where I'm excited about the things that happen to be popular at the
Yeah.
time, but that's never my motivation. You will see on my Instagram feed if you're scrolling through, I'll draw Santa, I'll draw I don't know, a bird, I'll draw whatever. And it's not just drag queens anymore. I used to draw more drag queens.
Hmm.
But now I'm trying to seek inspiration from within. I think that's how, hopefully, the human side will come through more. Things that
Hmm.
that I think can resonate more with people, and hopefully through my work, people can understand me as a person as well. I try to separate that part of me too much that I'm trying to bring that back in. I try to separate this Jason, the illustrator side of me
Yeah.
so much that I'm trying to force my way back in. So, insert myself, my interests, the things that excites me, back into my own work.
Sometimes I find that's it's more interesting for us as creatives too, right? Because I don't know, for me, when I'm overthinking and I'm trying to, oh, I want to, because I've done the drag queen illustrations, and they're fun. They're, gets attention, people tag whatever, but it's that, what am I doing that's something that is from my own mind, or
Yeah.
something that is, and that is always when I sit down, if I'm going to do something that's not client focused, I try not to think about it. I'm just like, what is just going to come out? And it's always, I notice, like, and Columbus actually called me out on this in the best way. And he's like, you really like creatures. Like, that's your go-to. Like, you really draw these like overly like expressive creatures. And I'm like, you're right. Like, I actually really do love, and I don't know about you, but like, I always start with eyes. That's my first thing. I'll draw the most detailed eyes, and nothing else is on the page.
Yeah, I think you should show everyone your plan character that you showed me in person. That was
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah. Okay, interestingly enough, I start with the eyes too, and there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of personality that you can get from the eyes. And
100%.
with any portrait, you yes, that's the first thing you look at. Whatever you draw, like creatures or whatever, if it comes from within, it's very honest, and it's almost like, yeah, okay, if no one likes it, so what? It's like something that resonates with me. The most recent piece I did as we are recording this, I just did a portrait of Nicki Minaj. When I was drawing it, I was like, oh yeah, I saw this funny picture of her, and I wanted to draw it because it's like, oh, it's very memeable caricature face of hers. So I'm like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I love to draw a funny face. At any time, if show me a funny face, I would love to draw it. But I was so nervous about posting it for a while because I worry that people would think that my drawing of her was kind of honoring her in a way. I want to draw because the face is fun to draw, and
Yeah.
an ugly face is still a fun face to draw. I'm sorry, it was like a cartoonish face is still fun. Sorry, no shade. I'm sorry, the barbs out there. If you want to come for me, I'm sorry, but you know,
Listen, the barbs are having a reckoning right now, so don't
yeah.
worry about it.
So I actually sat on the drawing. The drawing came out within an hour. It was quick. It was fun because
Hmm.
it just hit me. I was like, okay, that this face it looks fun to draw. I
Yeah.
wanna make it fun for me, whatever. And it took me like a full day to decide whether I want to post it, because I was like, oh, people would think that me just illustrating it is somehow endorsing something or platforming something. But I'm like, you know what? I want to post this. I drew it because I wanted it. At this point, I couldn't care less already. It resonated
Yeah.
with me. It was funny for me. It was fun for me. So I'm gonna post it. If you thought that I was glorifying anything or wanting to highlight whatever or endorsing any message, then that's on you. But for me, this
Hmm.
is what I want to do for myself. So I don't know if that made it more human, but it was a decision I consciously made. I don't want to make any decision that was external from me. I don't want the machine. I don't want the community, the society to tell me how I want to express myself. I'm just gonna express myself, and you take it or leave it. So that's how I took it. I mean, fortunately enough, people knew my intentions,
Yeah.
so all my worry were not really validated, but it really made me stop to think for a while. And then later, you know what? I'm like, screw it. Let's just post it.
Well, it's interesting because, we're in the age of commentary. Everybody types out what they think and what they say, but we can't forget that illustration art, that is also commentary. It doesn't, just because you are against something doesn't mean you can't draw it. To me, I
Yeah,
don't understand why that's also commentary. Like, people are so what's the word?
quick.
Basic these days, where they don't think, and it's like, just because you spend an hour drawing a celebrity who is problematic does not make you a supporter. Like,
Yeah,
let's think outside the box, people. But people are so dumb these days. I don't even care to say. I'm like, they are. People are so
no,
simple.
exactly. When you're scrolling past, you think that an artist drawing, someone, it automatically means an endorsement. But I think maybe this is a message to everyone out there who has that tendency to think that, to stop and think like, hey, artists tell their stories through visual means. So if we're only drawing things that we love, things that are beautiful, if I'm drawing the atrocities of war, doesn't mean I'm
Hmm.
supportive of it. It's just to
Yes.
show that this is the ugliness of humanity. I want to show you this. If I'm a writer writing about a villain, doesn't mean I am villainous. I'm just communicating to you in some way or
Hmm.
another. And I find social media kind of hold us back a little bit because of
Yeah.
how we worry about the public perception. And I
Hmm.
thought, maybe I should be less worried about what people thought my intentions were. If it was true, it should come out that way. If you misunderstood me, then I don't have time to debate whatever. The drawing came up to me almost like a lightning strike. I just sat there, and I don't know if you're like me. There are days that it's just impossible to get anything out, and then there are
Yeah.
days that magic happens.
It's like,
It's yeah. This was one of those pieces that magic just happened. I just sat there. Within an hour, it was done, colored, whatever.
hmm
There are pieces in my Instagram page that I've labored for 8 or 12 or 20 hours, and it's still ugly to me. This just came out, perfect, and it's almost like I don't know. Sorry to ramble on this answer, but
you're good.
it almost feels like because I didn't have a pressure to make it beautiful, I was like, you know what? If I screw this up, you know, if I screw this up,
100%.
whatever. So because that pressure was taken off, so it came out really fun for me. The process was fun for me, but posting it took me a while, and I got to the point where it's like, you know what? This has to come from me. It has to show like it came from a human person. I'm not shooting
Hmm.
this out. This was shown to you because I was participating in some commentary online. I'm
Yes.
joining the discussion in my own way that I know how. I might be using a digital tool to draw my drawings, but it's still a human voice coming to you.
Yeah. You can always tell when somebody's having fun with what they're doing. That illustration, it's the one you posted recently, right? Where when she's sitting up on the stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so funny. A literal LOL because I'm like, the face, just the face that you captured, that expression was so good. And you could tell you had a good time doing it.
Yeah.
And like on the flip side of that, we touched on this at the beginning, but in your intake form, you had mentioned along the lines of, in order to make good art, like we have to suffer as creatives, as people. Like when did that start to like sink in to you as something that you thought or were living?
Yeah, I don't know where I learned this. Maybe it's through architecture school. And is it the same in you done graphic design school as your major, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you find that to be the case? If you don't suffer for your art, then it feels like it's never good enough. Then everybody talks about how much they labored about art. Maybe it's an architecture school thing. I don't know.
I
Can you
think that's a
relate to this?
that's a life thing though, because
Oh, okay.
I feel like that in life. I feel if you don't suffer or if you don't go through things, you don't evolve and change as a human. I think if you're complacent and you always live the same reality, like you're never going to grow, you're never going to evolve as a human. And so I find, I can only speak from my experience, anytime that I've evolved is when I've gone through something rough that was not, easy street. And so I can definitely see how it applies to a creative output.
So there's this catch 22 that's happening for me because first is I'm not so sure if it's learned through architecture school where you kind of have to labor at your work because if you feel like you're not spending enough time, then it feels like it's not worthy enough to
Mm,
be
yeah.
a good project. And of course, there's an element of truth to it. If you spend a lot of time on working on something, then there's a high chance of it to be better than others. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're lucky, you can spend 5 minutes and create something very genius. But if you're talking about architecture specifically, sure, you can do a very creative project, but there might be problems that you have to work through. It's like, yeah, okay, it looks nice, but it's over budget, or it doesn't work in this way. It's not fully perfect in that way. So the more time you spend on something, it does get better over time. And I think maybe I bought into the idea as well, this whole trope of like the struggling artist, like it
Yes.
has to be tortured, you have to suffer, you have to not make money, that's so like, oh, you have to be poor to be a good artist. You can't live a
Yeah.
luxurious life and drink champagne and call yourself an artist. That's not real artist.
Yes.
You have to be like down the battlefields and on the street or whatever. I'm not sure if it's aging. It makes it harder for me to suffer for things anymore. I
Ain't
feel
that
like
the truth?
I can stay up all night to work on something. I think it's just physically impossible. So I think with maturity, you will realize that the lies of having to suffer for the art is like it's not always the case. Maybe sometimes,
Hmm.
but it's not necessary to create good art. You do have to work hard. I don't deny that hard work is important, and maybe this is the Asian in me. Like you have to work hard. There's a lot of benefits in working hard, so I don't think you can be this creative genius where you just show up and do a few strokes and
No.
then call yourself like a Jackson Pollock or whatever. You have to put in the time and effort and hours into it. I don't think you have to suffer necessarily. I don't think I woke up one day and decided that. I think it's over time where I feel like, okay, you know what? Why not I take a step back, like you maybe what you alluded to earlier. I want to take a step back. I need to fill my cup again. I need a breathing
Hmm.
space. I need to reset, and then you take the time you need, and then you come back to it, rather than labor on it. I'm not perfect at it yet. I think I'm more aware if I'm starting to realize that I'm suffering, then I tell myself, okay, maybe I don't have to feel this all the time. But the flip side of the coin is, as creatives, and tell me if you relate to this or not. It's like once it becomes easy, then you're like, how can I make this harder for
Yeah.
myself? It's like the moment I master, let's say, a particular tool, and then I scroll through Instagram or Pinterest, and you find something, and you're like, whoa, I want to try this. And then you spend another few hours laboring and figuring how to do that. So there's also a feeling like the ladder is an endless climb and always wanting to do something new or a new
Hmm.
approach or a new style or whatever. And I think that adds into the feeling of, wow, the every piece that I do, it feels like a struggle or a suffering. I don't know, can you relate to that sentiment?
Yeah. 100%. Sometimes I go down rabbit holes of something that is not important, and I will like I'll get so interested or intrigued. Example, streaming software. I use it for music. It recently introduced like a mixing feature, like a DJ where you can blend the songs together. And so each of the songs don't just end, like you can transition them in. I'm not a DJ, but I love that whole world. I love, electronic music. I love the idea of being able to manipulate music to blend together. So I spent like 2 hours just playing with the features. Wasted time. And I was like, I'm really interested in this. I'm like loving this. And then I realized I just for what reason? It didn't need to happen. I could have done something
It's
else,
like
but I just
how can I make my day a little bit more challenging today? Then you find creative ways to make it
you
difficult.
want to
Yeah.
learn.
I've also just started recently cooking a lot, and when I flip through
Mm,
the recipe book, I'm like, you know what? I've done this before. I'm not gonna cook this recipe again because I've done this before. So I find a recipe that I struggled, and then I stress out in the kitchen, and then my husband would say, you knew that there was an easier easier recipe. Why do you want to go for the one that you're struggling with? I'm like, I don't know. I think it's like a personality thing. It's a creative person thing. I
mhm.
don't know. That you feel like you're always wanting to find new areas to expand into, or maybe there's this openness to trying new things because we are just creatives in general.
It's almost like I don't want to say boredom because I don't think that is the right word, but to me it's like when everything becomes complacent, it's like I don't this is why
Yeah.
people, this is why people step out of the relationship when they're in a long term, you know what I mean? This is why people do things which is not good to hurt other people in the way that you do. But if it's for something where you're like, I need to feel connected to what I'm doing, even me, I've been doing what I do for almost 10 years, like specifically branding. Is it something that I'm like, rah rah, like, yeah, let's get it? No, I can't
Yeah.
say that at
Yeah.
all. But there's
Yeah.
parts of me, it's like, what do I do, or how do I
Yeah.
keep the flame burning in so many ways? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you always have to find new things. Yeah, like I drew so many portraits already. I would say hundreds, maybe a few hundreds. I don't know what's the
Hmm.
exact number. Um, but yeah, with each piece, I will always start with what can I do differently this time that I've
Yeah.
already done the last time? I don't mind artists that really hone in on their style and they locked in and they're like, you know what, this is what I'm known for. I'm gonna double down and lock it in. I'm
Hmm.
not like that. Which is why I feel looking at my own work, I can't really see a specific style because every time when I'm starting a new piece, I'm like, wait, what can I do differently this time? Have I drawn a person from the back before? Have I drawn a person upside down before? Then I want to explore that, or things like that,
Hmm.
or doing a certain face, or in a different light, or different color template, or whatever. Something small enough to challenge me, but not completely drown in a new environment. So you
Hmm.
want to turn the notch up slightly, or at least that's what I do for myself in my own work.
I'm gonna push back a little bit because
Okay.
I feel like you do have a style. Like you're saying you don't. To me, it's so obvious. Like you have this like super animated. Like there's like movement in your images.
Oh.
Like they're static, but there's like there's an energy to them where they're not. It's not like somebody who's just like posing. Like there's just energy to what you do. I think that
Oh.
is your style, and there's like an amorphous almost
Oh,
like element to how you draw
I
people
love
and
that.
poses, and that's to me is your style. So when you say you don't have a style, I like I don't agree with you. I don't agree.
Wow. No, I appreciate that. I mean, when you mentioned this, yeah, maybe I do like those, yes. Movements and energy is, for me, very important. When I start a piece, I always think about the vibe first, like what
Hmm.
feeling I want to get. I always start from there. Then of course it's the eyes, the anatomy and stuff. But it always comes from what is the energy it should possess. And
Hmm.
of course I draw inspiration from the muse. The muse will have an energy to it, which is why I think Drag Race is such a good source of inspiration, because you watch it on TV, the characters are talking, they're moving on
Yes.
stage, so it kind of gives you that energy to begin with. So yeah, which is why Drag Race is such a great source of inspiration for so many artists. And I kind of borrow that idea of like a energy, and then I try to translate that into most of my pieces. Not so sure if I'm successful all the time, but that's that's important to me. Yes, thanks for
Hmm.
pointing that out. I don't think I'm conscious about that.
It's hard sometimes. You have to separate yourself, and when you're in it too much, listen, we all do it. So that's why it's almost like a. I could easily say that about me, but then you'd probably have something to say, right? Where you could comment back. But I want to ask. So part of this whole platform is like I love talking to people about the past that they're on, but also moments that come up, these like what the fuck moments that we go through in our careers, whether they're for the best or for the worst or things that we learn from. Have you had anything that you've gone through is maybe like let's stick to like the portraits the in your on the drag side or in your Instagram where you've come up against something that was like what the fuck is happening? Like what is going on? Like what is going on in my world?
I think I'm more disturbed by the smaller things, the day to day stuff, like the everyday. So big, crazy things, I'm more, I won't say calm about it, but
Yeah.
again, so my husband would be like writing anonymously, that's not true, that's not Jason at all. The one that really changed us was COVID. It really derailed
Hmm.
us. It really shifted everything that we did. We moved to America the year before COVID happened. So just when we were
Okay.
settling in, and then COVID happened. So both of us were in new jobs at the time. We didn't have any friends or whatever. So we were completely isolated in the new country, in a
Mm.
new job. So having to navigate that was very disorienting. And I don't know if that necessarily translate into my work, except it was the time when I felt like, you know what, this is a time to really take this as an opportunity to really hone in on the skills or whatever I can do, make the best out
Mhm.
of the situation, because you see many people losing their jobs, many people have to shift or move or work remotely or redefine what it means to do work. So I took that opportunity to really just like, okay, let's continue moving and practice on my craft, keep drawing, keep moving ahead, and just charge through. So I took this lesson from my mom. She said if you work on your skills, you can carry it wherever you go. It will always be with you. So if you spend a
Hmm.
lot of time on it, wherever you travel to, it will always be there with you whenever you need it. So at the time when everything was changing, I was like, you know what? Now is the time. Now is the opportunity to really practice or work hard or continue moving. I'm not so sure if it derailed me, except it just made me feel like, okay, it's time to lock in and
I mean, that's like every artist, right? That's not a new storyline. We just said it earlier, where it's you could be like the output. If your output is more, sometimes it's because you're like, I need to like this itch needs scratching. It's like I need to get it out
yeah,
because this thing is like.
yeah. And I have to say, I reluctantly left architecture. I love architecture. I love architecture school. I love the profession. I enjoyed work. It was hard work, but I loved every single second of it. Yeah, it's crazy, right? For someone to love their job. It was very tough work, but I really, really enjoyed it. But when we moved to the States, I couldn't practice architecture anymore because it was so different. I was a very new architect at the time,
Hmm.
and um, the American Institute of Architects did not recognize um, a, an Australian registered architect, especially a young one. You had to have at least like 5 or 10 years under your belt as a
Hmm.
registered architect before the American Registration Board will recognize you automatically. And the process to get registered again was so long that I
Right.
decided, it's much easier or it's much more economical for me to just change profession. So when we moved and COVID and everything, so I let architecture go, and then I work as a project manager for a university. And at the time, we were overseeing constructions and stuff like that. So it was still architecture related, but it was more on the management side of things,
Hmm.
you know, and management type A personality, it goes well with me. So it wasn't very hard for me. So it was less drawing, but more managerial work. So I had to shift that. If you say like that's a WTF moment, there was a grieving period, but after that,
Yeah.
I moved on and yeah, get on with it. There's very little time to mourn the loss.
You touched on this a lot. We have talked about this where, you're always wanting to like learn something new, have a new skill, reach into the past and bring back a skill that you haven't touched on in a while. So do you ever feel, because I'm the same, I want to do everything. I want to try all these things. I want to get my hands dirty and learn all these things, but then you sometimes end up overloading your plate. You're like, I can't eat all of this. This is too much. So like, do you ever feel tension between wanting to explore everything under the sun and like try everything, or mastering something specific and saying, okay, I've got this thing down pat, now let me move on?
All the time, every single time. When I want to learn something,
Hmm.
I really immerse myself in it. There's no let's just play around with it stuff. I really want to learn it. I want to learn it well, and I want to do it well and take it seriously. And there's only so much you can do, because there's only so much time you have.
Yeah.
So once I find myself going too deep into something, I always have at the back of my mind, am I spending too much time in something when I could also venture into something else? Am I taking too much time away from something else that I could be spending time on? In a perfect world, I can split myself into five and,
Hmm.
master all the other skills that I want to learn. But I have to pick and choose, sometimes when I find myself spending too much time on something, I think like what you say about the you're very interested in the transition thing, when you start it and it's like very fun, then you have to ask yourself like, oh, how many more hours I want to put into
Yeah.
this when I could put into that. So I do struggle with that. Definitely. I have a lot of passion projects, interests, and things I also want to do. I want to get into fashion eventually, hopefully. If I have the time, I want to be better at baking. Oh my god, watching someone pipe a birthday cake is like my it's my dream dream hobby. um so those are things I'm like, oh my god, I want to get my hands on those things, but I'm so immersed myself in so many other projects. I feel like I'm I'm battling that. Should I spend more time into something new? Should I spend more time perfecting a craft? And we kind of, I'm not so sure consciously, but we kind of value specialization. When you go
Yeah.
see a doctor, you want to make sure that you're seeing a doctor that has an experience in that one
Yeah.
field for many years. When we work at somewhere, you work up a ladder, you do something and you try to perfect a craft. So I think
Hmm.
we do value that to some extent. We like people who are very knowledgeable about one thing. But I don't know if I'm like this. I can't be just good at one thing. If you told me, Jason, you only can be good at one thing forever, I'll be like, oh, that's such a sad existence to be only known for one thing.
Yeah.
Ugh, I think that's so. I think that's sad. I mean, more power to you if you feel like that's your calling. I don't want to take that away from anybody. But for me personally, I cannot see myself just being happy with, oh yeah, I'm portrait artist extraordinaire. I'm only known for X portrait in this style, and that's what I'm good at. That's all I'm good at. If you want it, take it or leave it. I wish I'm like that. I don't have the personality for that. I'm too promiscuous in terms of my hobbies and interests.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah. And I'm guessing most creatives are to some extent. I hope so. I don't know. Yeah.
Listen, I can get trapped in that too. Like I've talked about this before where, I've been designer, branding like my whole adult career. Not my whole, but like the majority of my adult life. And I'm at this point now where I don't want to do that anymore. I want to just tap into things that are already there. And we are like so programmed, I find for myself anyway, even though we see it in the media, we see people out there, triple threat, actor, singer, dancer. They're, they do, people do multiple things. They can have different types of media that they put out, podcasting, or if they're doing YouTube, or if they're doing their own art or whatever it is. And you see this now more than ever, you're seeing this. And so then I think people are
Yeah.
realizing they're embodying it more where, I don't need to stick to this one thing.
Yeah.
But on the same note, in the past, like we've been so programmed to think about, the term like jack of all trades, like, oh, you can do all these things, right? Like that's like not a good thing. But now I feel like the shift is there where people aren't seeing it as like a weakness.
I think part of it is also social media because it forces you to, oh, you have to find your niche and you have to
Hmm.
work on a style, stick to a format. And I think that kind of push us into that specialization because once you don't stick to one thing and then the algorithm kind of not know how to treat you really.
Seriously.
Beyonce wants to sing country album that everybody goes crazy about it. It's like, yeah, maybe creative people just want to venture into different things.
Yeah, I don't prescribe to that. At this
Yeah.
point, I'm like, let's do everything.
I want to be Beyonce singing country
Yeah.
albums.
That I don't care for. Like I never
Oh.
want to sing country. No, country. I don't want to sing
Oh, okay,
country.
okay, okay. Yeah.
I'm not a fan. I've never been a fan. I don't care. Like I just can't
Oh.
listen to country. I don't like it.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. It's when I listen to country, I'm not like deep into the country thing. So I know that there's a big range. I only know like the mainstream one, and yeah. So I get you. I understand what you're getting at. I'm not deep
I
into
love,
that genre.
but I do want to ask. So we've talked about all these different types of outputs. The way that you work in different avenues, how you've expressed yourself creatively in different ways. Talking to anybody who is listening right now, who like is a creative, might feel pressure to pick a lane, specialize in one way, optimize their art, or like monetize like too quickly. They're like, let me just hit the ground running and do this thing all and 100%. Like, what would you want them to hear right now? What would you say to them to be like, hey, listen, let me
Yeah.
give you some advice?
If that is your why, if that's really the drive, like you really want to monetize fast, build quick, be whatever, then more power to you. Just trust that instinct that you have to do it. But if that drive is external again, then I'll say, find that voice within you. Are you doing this for yourself or someone else? So I'm not saying that doing optimization, perfection, or whatever is a bad thing necessarily, or doing multiple things is good or bad. If it doesn't feel like it resonates from an internal place, then it's not right for you. Then you have to reassess. I'm not saying I'm perfect either. There are times where I find myself having to do a lot of self reflection or find myself too far into somewhere where I didn't want to find myself in. I also have to recheck and reassess and reevaluate. Maybe take a trip to Bangkok or something. Oh, it can come up. Yeah, and then do a reset.
I'm gonna take that
Okay,
as I move forward.
time for another trip to Bangkok.
Oh my god, I know. Tyler and I are already talking. I was like, we should go there next year for like a year, like just or a month. Like go for a month and just like trounce around and enjoy it. Because why not? Honestly, it's worth it. But I want to ask you one last thing. So I opened the episode with talking about like my on brand moment, and so I ask every guest this every week. So if you could look at your life and look at how you've talked a lot about the different avenues that you've gone through. So like in your own words, like what is the most on brand thing about you?
Not being able to stick to one thing is having too many interests, too many hobbies, finding too many avenues to be creative, and yeah, I can't stick to one lane. I think that's my weakness and my strength as well, unfortunately.
That's amazing. I love that. And honestly, that's like keep that because that's what makes you you. As cheesy as that sounds, not to have like an Oprah moment, but it's like yeah, ding. Well, Jason, I want to thank you so much for being part of graphic content. It means the world to me. I'm so happy that we got to have like a little taste test before we hopped into a recording and to meet in person and gallivant around Bangkok. Like that was so amazing. So I'm really appreciative of you making the time, and I want to thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me. And again, meeting you in person was the opportunity that I didn't expect, and we had so much fun meeting in person. And I don't think we should share too much about what we did, walking around the city, around Nana. Um, but yeah, again, I mentioned this earlier before we started recording, but I want to say you're doing such a great job, and you picked like the hardest format of podcasting you could pick: a video element with a different guest every week. So you
Hmm.
just, yeah, you're killing it. You're doing such a great job. You're so
Thank you.
professional at it. So yeah, thanks for having me. I feel so honored.
You're the best. That means the world. I really appreciate it. So, to anyone listening, if they want to contact you, reach out, follow you, like where can they find you?
I'm at McSpiky on Instagram. I'm such a millennial. I'm mostly on Instagram. I do
Yeah,
have an
listen.
X account, unfortunately. Yeah, Instagram at McSpiky.
Amazing. And to anyone who wants to reach out to me, follow the podcast. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok. I'm not on X, YouTube. Would love a subscription. And Jason, I want to thank you again for being part of this, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.